On November 1st, 2022, I put out a call. Today, I'm announcing the kickoff of the Cheap PC Challenge. And you answered. A dozen folks from around the tech computing and retro computing communities threw their hats into the ring. And like some cursed computing Thunderdome, 8 shell-shocked builders emerged, shaken but victorious, holding high their $100 masterpieces. Or should I say, misanthropes. In this roundup video, I propose we ponder the potential, putrescence, and puzzling perplexity of these pocket-priced PCs. All set? Bottoms up! Let's run through the contestants from last to first because, well, it's an internet top 10 list. We'll kick things off with an award winner. That's right, we're starting in last place with an award winner, and that award is Most Likely to Explode. Coming to us all the way from Chile, Sweden, this is Dusty's build, an HP Elite 8300 sold for scrap for about $15. And when I say sold for scrap, I am not exaggerating. It was sold as not working, and it looks the part. Mangled case, broken components on the motherboard, broken pins in the socket, and requires 2 power supplies? I highly encourage you to read Dusty's blog post about this build, because the things that he went through to get this thing to work are just incredible. And work it did in the end, although it turned out to just be an Ivy Bridge i5 with integrated graphics, so it didn't do super well in the tests. Dusty's HP Elite scored 182.27 points, and Dusty's build earns the Exploding Wrenchy Award. Congratulations, / I'm sorry. Onward and upward. Second to last place was my build, a Skylake i5 Office PC with not enough GPU in it. I bought an Optiplex 5040 small form factor on eBay for $60, and I found a $40 Radeon Pro for it that got crushed in the mail, like so many of my hopes and dreams. The backup GPU was its little brother, which I found for $10 less. However, it's barely better than APU graphics, honestly. A real get-what-you-paid-for moment. My Tiny Terror scored just 475.6 points, but I was able to get it to run VRChat in VR on my HTC Vive, which I think is pretty darn impressive for such a garbage-tier GPU. Next up, moving into actual contenders, we've got Ninkeo with a parts build that has a retro trick up its sleeve. They used the power of Australian local eBay to throw together a retro performance build with just 13 cents left in their budget. This system was built around a Dell H61 motherboard and an i5-2400 CPU. A Radeon 7850 rounded out the combo. This system can walk in many worlds, functioning just fine as a basic esports PC in Windows 10 in the modern era, but equally at home in Windows 7 or Windows 8. And for their system's party trick, Ninkeo reminds us that this entire build has native Windows XP support. And what an XP machine that would be. Ninkeo's PC of many faces scored 729.23 points. Up next is another builder scratching that old Radeon itch. Actually, that sounds really bad. Old Radeon itch sounds like something you should talk to your doctor about. Anyway, LJR Retro PCs put together quite a snazzy system with a Haswell Core i3 and another Radeon HD 7850. This machine muscled its way past Ninkeo's system on raw GPU power alone, with the Sapphire DualX card pulling in an impressive 661 points in Sanctuary. Altogether, LJR's supremely sensible system of snazziness scored 779.62 points. Up next was a surprise entry from Ernie at PC Sound Legacy. He put together an AM3 build with an FX8350 and a barnstormer of a GTX 670, but unfortunately, due to a miscommunication on my part, he performed the wrong test for the Google Doc and took a huge hit to his score. Sadly, I wasn't able to reach him in time to retest the Google Doc before he gave the system away. If that had worked out, this machine would probably not be a runner-up, but a third-place machine instead. Believe me, I'll be far more clear in my instructions for the Cheap PC Challenge 2023, which is coming soon. Like and subscribe so you don't miss it. Regardless, Ernie managed to make a $100 PlayStation 2 emulator, which is not bad at all considering the prices of real PlayStation 2s these days. What the heck? PC Sound Legacy's 8-core piledriver PlayStation scored 1,043.4 points, putting it in 4th place overall. Quite the legacy. One of the first entries to the challenge came in the form of a familiar Saturday stream from Big Bad Biologist. Somehow, he managed to get his hands on a Ryzen system that limboed its way under the $100 price limit. Yeah, he managed to score a BIOS-locked Dell Inspiron for a pittance, and found a similarly cheap Ryzen 1700 to throw in it. He also ended up having video card trouble, but in the end his backup card, a 1050 Ti, was no slouch, rocketing his build into an early lead. In fact, his whole system was no slouch. With 8 Zen cores and a 1050 Ti, this would make for an excellent first computer or low-end gaming PC today. Unfortunately, the modernity of the system did end up biting back, and he ended up having to take 90 points off of his final score for the price. Still, even with that big bad bummer, Big Bad Biologist's Big Bad build scored a big bad 1,075.85 points. This build places 3rd overall, and earns the Silver Wrenchy Award. Congratulations! Next up, another surprise entry from Red Magitech. He picked up an old HP Z440 workstation and hot-rodded the snot out of it. By the time he was done with it, it had a 760 Ti and a 14-core CPU in it. Wow! More curious, though, was what on earth it was doing in its previous life with a Windows 10 Internet of Things license and a Sound Blaster. Definitely give this build a look, and give his channel some love. He's just starting out, and I think he's starting out with a bang with this video. Red Magitech's Workstation turned WoW Station racked up 1,096.8 points, with a whole 204 of those coming from that monster 14-core Xeon. This impressive display of computing wizardry earns the build the Golden Wrenchy Award. Congratulations! Well, here we are, the last build. How much faster do you think it'll be? 300 points? 500 points? 700 points? Try double. Double the previous builds. I really wasn't expecting this build. I mean, I knew Micah was entering the contest. He'd said pretty early on that he'd try and make it to this one. But I had no idea what he was going to pull out of his sleeve. Come on, let's take a look. Micah chose the classic X58 platform and the dirt cheap overclocking champ, the 6-core 12-thread Xeon X5670. But where this build gets really bonkers is in the GPU. NVIDIA's premier Pascal pace setter populates this PC's primary port, providing potent performance for a pittance. That's right, an X-mining GTX 1080 Ti, with a healthy overclock just for good measure. The GPU alone scores 2277 points in Sanctuary. A lot of builders in this series took that chance, that big chance with the GPU, but here, it finally paid off. And how? My hat's off to you, Micah, for this build. You've created a real monster. This thing is a fire-breathing beast. Well done, you've won the Cheap PC Challenge 2022 by a country mile. This fire starter of a build earns the Platinum Wrenchy Award. Congratulations! That's it, that's all 8 builds. This was my first time running a build contest like this, and I have to say, it was an absolute blast. I loved seeing everyone's builds come together. I watched the progress tweets and toots with great anticipation. I felt the pangs of regret and disappointment when a build failed or a part arrived broken. It was quite a ride. I learned a lot too. I have a lot of changes to make for this year's challenge. Probably the biggest one is heatsinks. Oh my god, heatsinks. I get it, okay, I get it. Heatsinks will not be included in this year's budget. I'm sorry. Feel free to use whatever lumps of aluminum you have laying around to cool your builds this year. No cost. I've made a few other changes to the challenge parameters for this year as well, and hopefully they're going to be equally well received. I'm closing in on announcing this year's challenge. One of the major complaints about last year was that there just wasn't enough time to do the challenge, and it was during the busiest time of the year for a lot of people. That's legit, I hear ya. I had just thought it up a couple of weeks before publishing the announcement video. It was definitely a bit late in the year. So, you know, do the thing with the buttons down there so you don't miss this year's challenge announcement. Seriously though, y'all are amazing. I can't believe we passed 1,000 subscribers. That's immense. This channel is now on its way to becoming a legit YouTube channel. The train has finally left the station. And I couldn't have done it without y'all out there liking, subscribing, commenting, watching. It's not something I expected, it really isn't. I'm going to do my best to make this channel a lot of fun for as many folks as possible, and I'm honored to have you along for the ride. See you in the next one, and have a great night.